Welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector, and I'm back with a fresh set of what ifs. We finished the Halloween franchise, all the what ifs. Make sure you go check those out. Had a blast with those. So I figured, all right, let's go move right on to my second favorite franchise, Friday the 13th. So let's start with the original Friday the 13th and do what ifs. So for those that may be jumping on this because they're Friday the 13th fans and didn't see my what ifs for Halloween, I basically just take 10 situations in the film and say, what if this happened differently? What if they showed you this, not that? What if this person did this, not that? How events would have changed and just changed the path of the film. It's just basically a fun exercise just to think about different things that could have happened. And it also is where you might find a movie and that's one entry in the franchise you might not find so great. Sometimes the what ifs, you think to yourself, well, this would have improved it. So figured, you know what, let's move on to the Friday the 13th franchise and let's have some fun with it. So let's do this. So the original Friday the 13th opens up, it's 1958. They show you at Camp Crystal Lake, and it's the camp counselors are sitting around singing Kumbaya and whatnot, and two counselors go off to basically to fool around, you know? So we're introduced to, now to preface this by, first time I saw Friday the 13th was back in the early 80s. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on, back in the days of the video store that we're starting to, once we got our VCR, I was at the video store all the time, renting the horror movies. That's how I became a wacko. So I remember seeing this, and I'm like, oh, I had heard about it, because I think my brother and his friends had seen it. My brother's 6 years older than me. So I said, I have to see it. So I didn't know much about it, other than it was a horror movie, and was supposed to be really cool, and it was supposed to be scary. Okay, let's see. So going into this, I had no preconceived notions of what this even was, based on what you see on the cover. So, like I said, it opens up. It's 1958. You see these camp counselors. Now, two of them go off to fool around, which we know is, the cardinal rule, don't ever disappear to have sex because you'll never come back. But I was young. Figure 1980. Well, I probably saw it in probably 82, because I think I saw Halloween 2 before I probably saw it around 81. Halloween 2, yeah, around Halloween 2. Because I remember seeing Friday the 13th Part 2 right after that. So, cardinal rule, go off and have sex. So, now the two of them get killed. Okay, and then all of a sudden it flashes forward, and you're like, well, why did somebody just kill these two people? So, I thought to myself, obviously knowing now, after watching it all these years, what if it opened up and they showed Jason drowning? Right? Then you could have went into seeing the two kids get killed. Because then you would have been like, to me, it would have been a little bit more intriguing, because I was a little confused. Okay, these two camp counselors get killed. Now we're flashing forward, and then we're seeing other people get picked off little by little, and we don't know why. And then, of course, you hear when they get to the town that, Crazy Ralph is spouting off, and when she shows up in the diner, and they're all spouting off about, Camp Blood, you shouldn't go up there. So you're still scratching your head like, well, what happened there? If you would have saw Jason drown, you kind of like, well, a drowning happened there. For me, that's, like I said, this is just my personal what ifs. Make sure you throw yours in the comments. So that's the first one that came to mind. Like, what if they had showed Jason? Later on in the film, you see Betsy Palmer thinking back and you seeing Jason drown. What if you'd seen the drowning situation and the kids fooling around, just like she said, they were making love while he drowned? Maybe it would have been nice to see the whole story play out. Obviously, flash forward to the present, because it just says the present. And now we see a young girl with a backpack, Annie, with curly hair. She's supposed to be the cook. And she's hitchhiking her way to Camp Crystal Lake. And she was the one, like I said, that goes into the diner and ends up getting a lift from, I'm forgetting the guy's name who drove the tanker truck. I forget. She gets a lift, encounters Crazy Ralph. So, and of course, we know what happens to her. She gets picked up by a Jeep. We don't know who's in this Jeep. And she never makes it there because she gets killed. Okay, well, what if Annie made it there? Right? She was the cook. How it would have played a little bit differently. I think her getting killed in the beginning, it was just a kill factor. Let's throw a kill in there. But you made you scratch your head even more, because you're like, okay, who's this person in the Jeep now that's killing people? We just saw two people in 58 get killed. Now we're seeing somebody in the Jeep get killed. Scratching my head. So I thought it would have made more sense if she was there and got killed. Just my personal opinion. I guess maybe they were trying to throw us off because Steve Christie had a Jeep And this was a Jeep too, but Steve Christy was driving around with the top off, and it was a completely different Jeep. So maybe they were trying to throw you right there. My number 3, Crazy Ralph did make an appearance. Remember, there was that real like Keystone Cop that showed up on the bike. Hey, you smoking marijuana, reefer? It was just like such a really bad cop scene. And Kevin Bacon's checking out his bike and wants to talk on his walkie-talkie. So he was looking for Ralph because, figured he was peddling his way out there to start shit about Camp Blood. You're all doomed. It's got a death curse. What if and then you see him ride off. What if Crazy Ralph got killed in the first movie? Right? Why not? He could have just been killed off. Prophet of Doom. He didn't need to survive. He really wasn't. He was only in part 2 for a brief time too. He did the same thing where he warned somebody, and then he was spying on them, fooling around on Ginny and Paul, and next thing you know, he was dead. So you could have easily just killed him off in the first one. If he was that crazy prophet of doom, they probably should have kept him around. But is what it is. My number 4. Now this is something as a child, because. What is a teenage boy interested in sex and nudity, of course. So my number 4 is, what if the strip Monopoly game had gone further, right? What if the wind and the storm hadn't kicked up and opened that door, and she's like, oh, we better break up the game because the storm's coming. Got to close the windows in my cabin. What if it had gone a little bit further, right? See Adrienne King with no clothes on. It would have just, I don't know. This is just something I was thinking about because as a child, as a teenage boy, you want to see some nudity. So I was like, damn, we didn't get to see any nudity there because they were right this close to start removing their clothes. So I would have loved to have seen that Monopoly game go a lot further. Okay, so number 5. So you have ultra creepy Steve Christy because he's sort of hitting on Adrienne King and touchy-feely, and you can definitely tell he's older than her, and he's got that little bit of a creepy factor. So he leaves, go get supplies and whatnot. And later on, you see him, of course, the storm's raging, and he's in the diner eating. And, of course, he's getting ready to leave, and, of course, he's having a problem. He has a problem with the Jeep, and he ends up getting a ride from the police officer, who gets a call and has to leave him because he has to go take this call. So who does he encounter? He encounters somebody. We don't know who it is. They shine a light, and all he's like, ooh, and he gets killed. No idea who this person is. You're not even sure if it's the mysterious person in that Jeep. You're kind of assuming it is. So my number 5 is, what if Steve Christy made it back? What if he was there? Maybe he could have been like a final guy with Adrienne King, sort of like Paul with Jenny in part 2. It would have seen, maybe to me, he would have redeemed himself because I didn't really like his character. He was a little skeevy. So maybe if he stepped up to the plate and sort of helped save her, much like Paul did in part 2, we could have saw how it played out. I mean, maybe he would have got killed in the process, but it was better than just him being killed by this person that we don't even know who it is, or have an inkling of who the person is. My number 6 plays into another sort of final guy scenario. What if Bill and Alice hooked up? Because you remember, it was the 2 of them. He's telling her to get some sleep, or go check on the generator, and he wants to go with her, and they're sort of together, but he said, no, I'll go take care of it. Of course, you see him later on, and he's dead. What if they had hooked up, and they had stayed together, and he could have been the final guy, and she would have had somebody there with her to sort of, same thing. He could have very easily been killed off in the process of trying to get away. But I think it would have played out a little bit better. Because the whole scene, my only problem, I'm like, the thing with Adrienne King and her fighting Mrs. Voorhees, it was just a little odd to me. So, I don't know, just something about it. It's like, really, is this older woman really capable of doing everything that you see in this film? It was a little far-fetched once you find out who the person was. So I think it would have played out a little bit better if there was 2 of them chasing after her. And it could have very well been Bill. Just like it could have been Steve Christy if he would have made it back. Now, my number 7 plays into the fact that, for all intents and purposes, we're supposed to assume at the end of this film that Jason is alive, remember? We didn't find any boy. Then he's still out there. That's the ambiguous ending because Mrs. Voorhees had her head taken off, so she's gone. Not putting the head back on. This isn't a soap opera. So for all intents and purposes, this was supposed to be a one-off film, of course. but they never found him. So you can sit there and think, okay, well, maybe he got away or he's still out there. He's still out there. So my number 7 is, what if through this whole film you had little scenes of Jason, not necessarily just seeing him tail her, but like little remnants, maybe like little blurbs in the water or just like shadows, misdirection of him following her, right? Because how did he know because in part 2, they're talking about Paul's giving that whole speech. Rumor has it that Jason saw his mother beheaded that night. Okay, well, if he was in the water, under the water, he didn't see her get beheaded. So if this would have made more sense if he was tailing her. And same thing, you could have saw him in shadow, because the backgrounds and just obviously, and you still wouldn't know who it is, and it would have gave you the illusion of 2 different people. So it made your head scratch a little bit more, like, oh wait, is there 2 killers? Way before Scream, because that pioneered the 2 killer theory. So I thought that would have been kind of cool if he was tailing Mom and watching Mom, saying, okay, mom's avenging my death, although he's not dead. So he's watching it and learning. And my number 8 plays into that factor because, like Paul says in part 2, I keep bringing part 2 up, but it's very relative to the original. He says, rumor has it Jason saw his mother beheaded that night. Okay, so if he was tailing her, my number 8 is, what if you showed him seeing his mother get beheaded? Because we're supposed to understand that was the rumor, that he saw his mother get beheaded. And of course, you see in part 2, he's got her head, he's got her sweater. So what it could have been a shot from the water where you see him up and he's watching what's going on, and we see that image as Alice takes her head off. That would have been great, like with the moon and on the water, and you see him looking, and it would have been, I think it would have been a cool shot. So what if you saw him seeing his mother beheaded? And number 9 plays into the whole factor. Now, they could have extended a little bit longer before she went out on the canoe and took a nap. My number 9 is, what if Alice fought Jason? What if after Mrs. Voorhees was beheaded, he comes out of the water? Because you still don't know you still really don't know all this stuff. I mean, yeah, you get the exposition of what was going on when Mrs. Voorhees tells her, that I was the cook here, and my only son Jason was killed, and today is his birthday. So you get all the exposition of what really went on. But what if after she, sort of like that same image of watching from behind, him watching his mother get killed, you see him come out of the water and go after her, and they fight? That would have been pretty cool. Especially the way he looked, Ari Lehman, with all that crazy makeup on, and he looked like Mongoloid. Would have been pretty cool. And of course, my number 10 could change the factor of the whole film. What if Jason was the killer? He could have easily been the killer in this whole film. Because, like I said, it was a little far-fetched to think that the way all these people were killed, it was done by Betsy Palmer, an older woman. I don't see it, and I can't see her being so very stealthy. I mean, she's so stealthy that she was able to get underneath the bed without Kevin Bacon hearing anything or even knowing anything, or just where she's just moving in shadows through the whole film, and I just don't see it. No, I'm not saying a woman couldn't be a killer, but I just didn't see this. It's not like we're sitting here seeing like Ripley from Aliens, a younger woman who's in shape, who's a badass. It's just an older woman, somebody's mom, and I don't see it. So what if Jason was the killer for this whole film? And it could have made sense because he could have come back to avenge his death. He didn't need his mother to do it, right? It didn't make sense. It makes sense because now this is not a knock on the film. I'm just saying these are what-if scenarios that could have changed things, and what if would have happened. I love all the Friday... Well, go watch my ranking. I don't love them all. But I like this movie the way it is. It does. This is what-ifs don't mean that it needs to be changed. It's just exactly what it is. What if? What if this was different? How would it have played out? And would have been kind of cool to think about that, right? If Jason was the killer through the whole film, because you could have showed him drowning in the beginning. You could have showed the counselors getting killed, because he was older. It was no reason to show him as a little boy, because it didn't make sense, because he was killed in 1957. And it says the present, so we know it's, for all intents and purposes, 1980. So what is he, 30, 30-ish, right? Yeah, got to be in his 30s. So he would be an adult, which you do see in part 2. He's an adult. So he could have very easily come and avenged his death. And there you have it. That's my first what if for Friday the 13th, the original from 1980. You have some what ifs? Throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear them because I get a lot of what ifs. Go back and watch the Halloween ones and some that I didn't even think of. Like I'm like, oh shit, that would have been cool if that would have happened too. Let me know some of your what ifs. I'm always open for hearing them. I'm going to go movie by movie. And if you have any ideas for part 2, which I'll probably do in the next week or two, depending on my time. And it's going to be, we just go from here. It's just going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to this. So do me a favor. Hit that like button. Helps people find this channel. If you like horror, we do that horror movie podcast every Sunday night. We watch movies on Tuesday night live. Either a horror, and once a month we do a comedy. So a lot of shit. Just run around. If you're new, go run around on the channel. There's a lot of shit. You'll step in a lot of shit. So hopefully you'll find something you like. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. And it helps the channel grow. And we're trying to put a lot more into the channel, especially with a new year. We got some great ideas. And it's nice to start the beginning of the year with a fresh franchise to do all my what ifs. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So, like I said, comment below. Let me know your what ifs. Let me know any other scenarios you would have thought of. Let me know your ranking of the films. Throw your ranking in there. That'd be cool to hear that. Let me know, do you like Friday the 13th? Friday the 13th, the original, tends to land sometimes in the middle of everybody's ranking, truth be told. I like it, and it's probably, I think when I did my ranking, what was it, number 4 or 5? And that doesn't mean it's just a matter of personal taste. I can just give you my favorite is part 2. But let me know your ranking below and some what ifs. Right? Until next time, talk to you soon.